Hello, Heathens.
Hello, Heathens.
Oh, we are recording on Thanksgiving Day, even though this will come out,
Thanksgiving
on
Day.
the
The week
30th, the
later.
last day of the month.
Happy Turkey Day.
Yeah, for real. So happy
What's your
belated Turkey Day.
what's your favorite turkey food?
You mean Thanksgiving food?
Yeah.
Salad. I don't I don't really like Thanksgiving food at all. I'm not a big mashed potatoes, corn, green. Like I like green beans if they're steamed, but I always like the salads. I just eat a lot of salad.
I
Actually,
think
no, I
that's
lied. Deviled eggs. My Aunt Rita makes some
I
bomb ass
love
deviled
deviled
eggs.
eggs.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my favorite.
That's a good one.
What's
That
yours?
is God. Well, I love food. So
Fair.
um but I've gotten particular about like how I want my rate. Like if my stuffing's not the right texture or it's got something gross in it and
Yeah.
it's what I have deemed gross, not like
Yeah.
no.
Uh-huh.
It's like that. It's like I like
Yep.
mashed potatoes, but it's particular, right?
Yeah. I would actually, you know what? I'm gonna agree with that 100% because there's been Paula Bella's mom makes the best fucking Thanksgiving meal, but she also makes it like it's to my particular buds. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right, right,
she
right.
makes green bean casserole, but she makes this Italian version of it and it's got mushrooms and stuff in it. And it's so bomb. And it's not like a cream of mushroom type green bean casserole. And I like
Right.
that better. So I would agree with that. I think I'm just really picky about food, is what I'm coming to terms with.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like I like it's a texture thing, but it's also a taste thing. If there's something weird that like doesn't agree with my stomach or, I just can taste it, like I just don't, it just isn't pleasurable. And I think food should be pleasurable.
I agree.
So that's like the main thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't Macaroni and cheese is probably my favorite.
Oh, fuck.
I love macaroni and
I could
cheese.
fuck up some mac and cheese.
But like the noodles have to be cooked perfect. They have to have a little al dente like in it. They can't be mushy. I don't like that, right? The cheese has to be good and it has to be creamy, right? Like, and I know that's probably a given, but those are the things that really like. If you want to put a little bit of crumble top on that, I am okay with that as
Yeah.
well.
Best mac and cheese I ever had was the one you made. Your Nicole has a client who is a chef and brought her all this like cheese platter. She used that leftover cheese, all of them, in the mac and cheese.
Yeah.
And dude, it was the
Mm-hmm.
best freaking mac and cheese I've ever had because it was just
It's so
so
good.
flavorful. Like there was just so much
Uh-huh.
happening in it. And I was like, I love it. It's
And of course,
so
I
good.
don't know what I'm doing. I was just like, let's throw it all in there and see what happens.
Oh,
Like, but
oh,
it was amazing.
that was the best mac and cheese, man. Okay, so before we get in today's episode and we explain what's going to happen, because we're going to throw you guys for a little loop here, we had a listener question on Spotify that I wanted to talk to you guys about because I realized that wow, this could be a hard thing for some people. We had
Especially in
a
the north.
Yeah, especially here, especially in Michigan, anywhere like that where you guys get a lot of snow. The listener asked, "How do we stay connected to nature during winter?" And it's like totally understandable to feel that it could be hard to connect during wintertime, especially because it's dark outside, right? And it could seem like there's isn't much to connect to. But I thought that Nicole and I could give you guys some ideas because I mean, I think it's easier for us because we also don't have a self-imposed limitation on the winter. I personally love the winter.
Yeah.
Um,
It's so incredibly beautiful.
it is. And I will implore you guys, we say this a lot, do your research. Like you can just literally look up how to stay connected to winter and you can get some really good ideas. We're going to throw some out for you. But when
Mhm.
you no question's a bad question. I do think, like I said, this is something important to talk to because there is something that I saw that I didn't even think about. And it was where it's getting connected with the sun, especially when it comes out, because we're not making sure we're passively experiencing it instead of consciously experiencing it. And I think that was important to note when it comes to winter time, is like when you do get the sun, you're just like, oh, the sun's back, yay. And that's kind of it. We're not like taking in the light and the heat that the sun can give us. So getting connected to the sun, I think, is an important thing to do during this time too, because it'll help like rejuvenate you when it does come out.
It's very well, and that's the thing is like stopping for 1 minute, facing the sun, pretending like you're a meerkat, like warming yourself up, right? Like,
Yes.
and that's one of the best things. You're right, like consciously like saying hi and absorbing like you're a solar battery.
Yes.
And it just feels so good when you do that. Just the warmth on just your face even. And then
Just
you
your
could feel
face.
it, like, just because it's not in your skin doesn't mean you can't feel it through your, like, coat and the layers that you have. You immediately feel it. And it does wonders for, like, just being out, just being outside and being, like, cleansing your aura or,
Yeah.
recharging your battery. It's really good.
Absolutely. Some other things I have on here is for those of you that like to journal, this is a good time to journal. It's a good time to start like making lists of your favorite winter activities. And it doesn't have to be these big, huge trips like going to a ski lodge or something. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. It could be like taking a walk. Start asking yourselves questions about what could help you feel connected during winter. Like, what do you do during the summer that makes you feel connected, right? And then start looking at what you could do during the winter, making a list
Mhm.
of what your favorite winter memories are, especially you guys. Nicole and I were talking about this before the episode,
Mhm.
is what you do as a kid in winter. Like, what did
Right?
you do? What made you feel you liked going? I personally loved going outside. I loved to sled and make snowmen and have
Oh
snowball
my
fights.
god, right? Like having getting your snowsuit on and your moon boots and your hat and your gloves and you know, remember when you couldn't wait to get out there like
Yes, we
because
were
it
so
never
pumped.
right, it never stopped you. And now it's like, well, I mean, I guess for me, like I don't have the right like outfit. I don't have like warm boots because I don't do that, right? Like,
That's so funny you say that, because my next thing is be proactive. You need to make a list of what's going to be the easiest ways for you to do more of those activities. Some
mhm,
of that could be, I, as a grown woman, need a snowsuit. I need good winter boots. I need a good hat. I need good gloves. So that's going to be my goal. I'm going to get this stuff so I can go outside, stay warm, but then enjoy nature in this
mhm.
transition period or this period of time,
Yeah,
because I'm
get
the
out there
same.
so you can be because like if you can stay out there, if you can try to not be miserable, cold, which I know is a thing, right? Like same. But if you can like be proactive and be warm out there, like even if you just go for a walk, but by the time you're doing that walk, like you're taking shit off because you're so hot at that point. It's the
Yeah.
movement that like you're like, oh God, now hot.
Yes. A few other things that I saw, that one is like I do this too, is feeding the birds and like the animals. Food's scarce in the winter for these
Hmm.
animals, and that can make you feel really connected to nature, especially if you put it like right outside of a window or something. You could watch them, and that could be something that could make you feel connected because you're giving to nature during a time when like food's scarce.
Yeah, you could do stuff for the deer and the raccoons or whatever. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do just to help nature and wildlife.
Absolutely.
Don't bring them in your house though. They are meant
Don't.
for the winter.
Yes.
They're not
Yes.
cold. They're fine.
They're
They're
fine.
thriving without you right now. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
but it would help.
it would help. A few other ones that I have is it's a good time to take care of indoor plants, you guys. It's
Hmm.
also, if you can, like we said, if you can get proactive about what you need to go outside, go sit in the snow once it snows. If it's snowing, feel the earth, listen to it, get connected to what the earth feels like during the winter. That'll help. And then my favorite one, which we do this all the time anyways, but it's a good one during the winter, is start embracing indoor activities that can help you feel connected. Watch
Hmm.
some nature documentaries. Favorite,
Yeah.
learn about like
The
local plants and wildlife.
the whole go to your local greenhouse.
Go to your local greenhouse. Yeah.
My favorite nature show though so far is that first, like, first of all, I love Blue Planet. Blue Planet is like my,
Yes.
like, when I say I nerd out and I start to cry because I've seen the ocean, like it's bad. But Planet Earth also has some really great crisp pictures. And if you sit there in a dark room and kind of almost meditate or channel with it, it's really beneficial
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So it makes you see the nature, you feel the nature, it's a really good place to be when you need to unwind, stress from holidays, stuff like that, because they're not necessarily like um animals are great because they're just enjoying their life.
Yeah. Exactly.
They don't have any motivation besides like survival. Um they're just doing what they're doing. They weren't trained to be that way. They weren't that's just how they are. And
Well,
that's what I
and
really appreciate about it.
like Grandmother Willow said in Pocahontas, which I know that movie is controversy now, but one of my favorites when I was a kid. Grandmother Willow said, nature's all around you. You just have to learn to listen.
Mhm.
Like, even
Mhm.
when you're in your house, like grounding, when you ground, you don't have to be out in the grass to ground. You have to understand your home is built on the earth. You can channel that energy whenever you want. So you
Well,
can
and
always keep
everything's
the connection
energy.
rolling. Yeah,
Just
exactly.
because it looks solid doesn't mean it is. Science has proven that everything is energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that energy can pass through the other energy and then,
And then you got an energy soup.
a soup. I got
Yeah.
soup.
So, uh, try to stay happy. Make sure you're taking your vitamins, people.
Yes.
Vitamins help a lot during this time.
D, D, zinc, C, I think,
I
and
think,
B. B.
yes, take your vitamins, eat good food, feed the
Mm-hmm.
birds, make some crafts.
Feed the
There's lots of
birds.
things. If none of those are tickling your fancy, like I said, do your research. Just look up how to stay connected to nature during the winter. Pretty
Go
easy.
help go help a friend clean out a bedroom or something.
Yeah,
Like go do something proactive.
true. Okay, so diving into the episode, we're
Huh.
going to be talking about two topics today. Uh, reason being is because the universe told Nicole she needed to study something else.
Yep.
I mean, it's just that's actually what it is.
That's exactly what it is. Because I swear to you, even looking back at it, I swear that it said trust
Trust. Yeah.
and it says truth.
It was meant to be. So we're going to have two topics today because it's funny too, because we both maybe
TNT.
had half of an episode by ourselves anyways, which is kind of
Yeah.
how we usually roll. We fill in and like between the two of us, we have a full episode. So today we're talking two topics. We're talking inner truth and inner trust, or trust in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, truly, I think they're two good topics to kind of go together anyways, now that I think about it. But it's just funny how this happened.
It
So,
really is. Because I was like, and it's so funny when you're so confident about what you're doing, it's almost like, nuh-uh. I
nuh-uh.
swear it says trust on here. Nope. No, it does not. It does not. It does not say that. Nope.
I mean, I was like, oh no, did I study the wrong thing? I'm like, well, you guys get a 2-for-1 deal today.
This is how it works.
Right? So what would you prefer to start with?
With truth.
Truth? Okay.
Hmm.
So inner truth is there was another episode that we did where I felt like it was hard to find things. What was it? I think it was a disillusion.
Delusion. Yeah,
Disillusion, yeah.
disillusion.
The one we just did. This was another one. There's not a lot of material out there about inner truth, and I started to understand why. I think that a lot of people have a hard time putting inner truth into words. So let's start with the definition of truth, and that's the quality or state of being true, that which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. Now, when you get a definition without, the word being used, no, of course not. But I don't, I wanted to say that inner truth is a form of subjective truth, is what I would say it is. It's a form of subjective truth which formulates your ambitions and aspirations. I don't think anybody in this world can tell you what your truth is.
No, that's the hard part about explaining what truth is because it, what's true for me isn't true for you. I mean, even if you watch like an accident, what I saw and it was truthful to me, and what
Mm-hmm.
you saw was and truthful to you could be two very different things, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what's so hard about truth is that there's what's really happened, there's what you thought happened, and there's what I thought happened.
Yeah.
And that's how, right?
Well, and like my ambitions could be different than your ambitions. My goals in life are different than your goals in life. And so that's
Yep.
just like my inner truth aligns with this, yours aligns with that. And it's like, okay, so there's some things around this that I wanted to talk about. Because I can't tell you, neither myself nor Nicole can tell you, heathens, what your inner truth is, but we can try to help you
Mm-mm.
find it. And so that's what I wanted to talk about is when I was researching this, I was like, well, we can't tell you what it is, but we can tell you how to find it and what it could look like.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure before we started this, like we do everything to take the woo away from it. Finding your inner truth isn't like finding a final destination or having a big revelation, okay? It's a choice of committing yourself to what is true as it deepens. Like your truth deepens over time and it can change. And this isn't like one of those finish line things again, where you just have this big revelation and all of a sudden you know your inner truth and you're good to go and you've hit the finish line. There's no finish line.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, for real. I was like, yeah, yeah. um, I also wanted to say that what did I, what am I, um, okay, when we don't want to know the truth, though, about our inner selves in situations, that's when life just kind of moves you around.
What is
That's when
it?
you, what?
I said, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to explain. So, like, when you don't want to know the truth about yourself or your inner truths, life can push you wherever it wants to push you. And you might not like where you're being pushed because you have no goals, you have no
Mm.
aspirations, you don't really know yourself and your truths. It's like having somebody tell you what they believe and you just allow it to be, you are like, oh, now that's what I believe.
Okay. So, it's almost like if you're in a river and you're kind of like just being pushed around by the water, you have no goals or like not you're not trying to get to the side of the shores or anything like that. Okay.
Great
Okay.
example. You're not the salmon swimming up the stream to get to like the goal, right? And like, sure,
Right.
you might go this way or that way, but you're choosing it. By not finding your inner truth, by not having anything and being scared to and not wanting to, how do you know your goals? How do you know your aspirations? How do you know your ambitions? How do you know what your purpose is? Finding your inner truth is like finding your purpose instead of just letting everything around you tell you what it is, meaning other opinions, all these things around the social media, all these things that are constantly telling us what their truths are. You might not know your own truth. And so you could believe something, but then you hear something else and you're just bopping around.
Yeah, social media would be really hard because they all of it is true.
Yeah, right.
They think it, like it's that thing is like if you can find one on one side, you can find the same thing on the other side.
Yeah.
And both of them are true, right? Like, I mean, to a point.
To a point, right? Exactly.
Right, because then you have false stuff and false readings and false information and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know what this is.
So, inner truth is going to start with the awareness of the self. Becoming more aware of yourself will help with like changing your behaviors and stop like your it will stop you from filling the void in unhealthy ways. Because again, not knowing your inner truth is like having a void of ambition, goals, or a purpose. And that's where a lot of people can feel very depressed and lost in life, is because they don't have an inner truth. Inner truth isn't a set thing that somebody can tell you. Again, it's about you and you knowing yourself, but it starts with self-awareness, and it's a process of becoming who you truly are.
So would you say it would be a good thing to like either have like a close friend that you trust to like help you navigate what your truth is, or like a therapist to kind of like, what if I don't know any of my truths? Like how do I?
You start working on yourself. This is why this is so I actually have this in here too. The reason that we're doing this episode this late is because doing all the internal work we've talked about is going to help you find your inner truth. And you need to be able to deal with what it will uncover, right? When telling yourself the truth, it could trigger some deep emotional responses, because things that you have not wanted to look at that are true about yourself, or things that you know about yourself and your purpose, could be hard for you to deal with. So this is like why we've done this so late in the game after we've done all this interpersonal work, is you have to be doing that work to start understanding your truth and gaining that self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
Yeah.
I feel like this is really hard because, like, if we've put stuff away that we've deemed bad or wrong in ourselves, then it's hard to accept the truth, right? It's
Yes.
even hard to, at this point, like, if I said I was a bad singer when I was 6 or whatever, and maybe that's not the truth, but I've told myself this and trying to uncover that and, like, come full circle on that, that's a really hard thing to, like, come to terms with, like.
Yeah, 100%. Because remember, we talked about, I can't remember if it was the projection episode or what it was, but especially as children trying to be accepted, we hide all these parts of ourselves that could be the best parts of ourselves. And it's hard to, when you bring up these things about yourself that you're starting to learn and you're starting to understand yourself and gain that self awareness, it can be really hard to go through these things and admit these things to yourself, you know? Especially think
Mhm.
about traumas. When we talked about traumas, it's hard to admit that you have a trauma behind something. Sometimes you don't even want to look at it. You're like, no, it's just a thing that happened to me. It's not a big deal.
Right, right.
It's kind of like that, you know?
Well, and that's hard to be, like, eh, um, vulnerable to even look at that kind of stuff because you don't want to.
Yeah, 100%. That's why it's like this, you have to do all this work to start understanding, to gain the self-awareness, to gain what your inner truth is. Because again, it's something somebody can't tell you. It's not something you just search for and all of a sudden you're like,
Aha!
ha
I got
ha,
it.
I found it. To
No.
me,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, that's okay. I was going to say, to me, inner truth is connecting to a deep wisdom that you have within. It's
Mhm.
like that shared consciousness or universal energy where you have this truth inside of you that you believe in. And to others, it could also mean getting in touch with your inner truths, your inner self, which looks like learning to identify and listening to your own inner voice to guide you through life.
Mhm.
It's basically the inner truth is getting in touch with you.
Yeah, and that's a tough one in this day and age, 'cause especially if the social media that we're mostly on anyway is so targeted to what you are into,
Yeah.
and to strengthen that truth that you're building inside of you kind of thing, it can lead you astray because you don't have anybody to challenge those truths. That's why everybody gets so worked up on, social media nowadays, is because the fact that they think because they've had, all these people say that, yeah, like you're true. This is it. This is, all of it is. But they've never had anybody challenge that. And I really think we're missing the debates of the world, because like this is where you could really solidly get your inner truth, because you're made to defend it in an intelligent way. You're not just saying, well, you're not just yelling at that person, well, you're an idiot. Well, that's not true, right? Like, just because I'm disagreeing with you doesn't make me an idiot. Why do you believe this? I find this a lot when you're talking about religion with people and you start questioning why, right? Like, well, why did he do that? Or why does it say that in the Bible? Why do you think it says it in the Bible? And, I don't think people have thought about that. Not enough to like actually be like, well, I think this way about it. And then we have a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I'm saying that you're wrong. I'm trying to find a deeper understanding of the whole thing. And by talking to people, consciousness, spirit is talking through you. And then we get a broader perspective. Like I get a deeper understanding, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Like
oh,
so
I was
I
going to
say like
add
the,
to that because you're bringing me into the next thing where
okay.
I'm going to say on the opposite end of that, we also have to understand that other people have their own versions of the truth. And
Hmm.
we have to try to hold space to hear other people's truths too, because we don't do that a lot. We argue to a point because we don't want to hear their truths, or we don't
Hmm.
want to, again, your truths are dumb. And it's like, no, we have to be open to that because you don't have to agree with their truths, but taking the
No.
time to understand others can help bring enlightenment and sometimes valuable knowledge to your own truths.
Yes, that's it too. It's like that we're trying, when you do a debate with somebody that disagrees with you, it makes it bigger because then you
Yeah.
understand why they think that way. I think that's the great thing about having being a hairdresser, is that I could ask one question to 10 people and I get different truths from all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But then I get this broad spectrum of what the truth is on that certain subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the beauty of it too, though, is like when you are more open and willing to hear other people's truths and not necessarily try to change their mind or tell them they're wrong,
Yeah.
and you're questioning it from a place of sincerity, it can be so like eye-opening for you and or them
Yeah.
because like you said, it creates this really big conversation. Good questions can create a really big conversation about it to where then you both are, mulling over different things and just continually bringing more to the table. And it can create a
Hmm.
lot of understanding, or it can create little rabbit holes that you can jump down where you're like,
Right.
huh, I've never thought about that. And it's like, I'm going to look into that.
Also, when you're having this kind of delicate conversation, is make sure you're not pushing too hard, right?
Yeah.
If you, unless you want to fight, and then go right ahead. But like, usually, you don't need to get things heated. And if somebody has gotten to the point where they're not willing to go any further, don't push them towards it. Don't try. It doesn't. What does it matter if you're right?
Right. Because are you really right?
Yeah.
And to whose standards are you right?
Right. And are you willing to say it's a friend that, like, is having a disagreement? Is it worth hurting this friend? Is this like, are you trying to be right for your own ego? Which is usually what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm right and you're wrong. But the outcome is going to be the same. Like, they're not going to believe you. And now they don't want to talk to you. Or, now you're not friends. Or now you've, ruined something between you two. And like, is it worth it? Is
And
that worth it?
you say this a lot, and I think this is a really good question to ask yourself too, is what is you doing that going to change? You think you're going to change their mind? You think you're just going right in there, rearranging their thoughts and putting everything into place in the way that you want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
I think that all the time. What good is that going to be for them if I say this? And then if it's
Yeah,
like, oh, well, this could spark thought for both of us, then it's, or like, this is a question that I would love to hear just because that's going to make me question more so that I can like keep going down a rabbit hole, then yeah. But if it's something that is, well, I just want them to know they're wrong.
that's ego.
Yeah, come on, dude. What's that? What's that going to do?
Yeah, we see it in families all the time, especially like, the hot topic because everybody doesn't want to go to Thanksgiving because we're going to talk political stuff, right? Well, it's not bad to talk politically. It's actually kind of great. And it's actually if you can do it in a way that's not being triggered. This is the problem is that people are getting triggered just because somebody opposed your idea. Don't be that person. Do your research, first of all, do your research. And it's fine if they still want to come back and say that you're not right and you're an idiot and all that kind of stuff. That just means that they don't know what they're talking about. They basically, because what happens is we're all too busy to do fucking research and we don't want to do it, which is fine. But what happens is we had a conversation with somebody that we think is smarter than us or has done more research than us, and we take this information as true. So now we're starting rumors and we're starting the telephone game, at the same time. So when we come back and then somebody challenges us on that kind of subject or whatever it is, and we don't know how to defend that topic because we didn't do the research, we have no depth, we have no root to it. That's when, you start to, instead of saying like, well, I don't know, I didn't actually like research this, we get into fight and say that, well, you're just an idiot and that's why you don't understand.
Yeah, and I will say for people that really just truly do not enjoy talking about politics at all, simply bring out the vulnerability. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't make you look stupid to say something as simple as, "I'm sorry, I can't talk about this. I do not know anything about it." You don't have to be like, I
Yeah,
don't care about that. I don't want to talk about it, blah, 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 and start. That's just going to rile them up even more.
right,
It can just be something as simple as,
right,
I haven't done my research. I don't know. I can't really put into this conversation because I have nothing to give to it, you know? And because that can be very true.
yeah.
There's some topics, even me, I don't know. And then I
Well,
just
and that's your
be,
truth too.
uh-huh.
Like that's a boundary, that's your truth. You could just be like, listen, I don't know enough and I have refrained. It's one of my boundaries that I don't get into political conversations with anybody.
Yeah. And that's okay, you know. Not everybody
Mm-hmm.
is on the world to talk about politics, but you know what? If you are, like Nicole said, it doesn't have to be I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. Like even like this guy came up to me. I was getting my tires changed and he came up and he was like, I'm gonna go on a limb here. And he's like, I voted for Biden. And I was like, okay, like that's great. Like I'm not revealing anybody that I like. I'm just accepting his truth. Like I don't have to engage. I just accepting it. And not that I am or I'm not like for whatever political party. That's not the point. The
Yeah,
point
that's not the
is
point.
that I can, right. I can sit here and, hold a safe space for him for whatever he needed at this time.
Yeah, because also
Clearly it
that's
was to
so
bug me.
random. Yeah, it
It really
was.
is.
That's so random. Like,
Well,
dude,
and
what?
it's it's so funny because like when you talk about like stereotypical like older white men, like he was it. He walked right up and he was like trying to be funny. He was like, "Well, I'm gonna go out there in their garage and tell them what to do." And I was like, "Well, I don't think you should probably go out there. Like, I think they probably haven't handled. And he's like, "Well, what's taking them so long?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, but it was so funny to like talk with him, but also keep soft boundaries with him,
Yeah.
where it's just like, well, I don't actually believe that way, or, well, I try to like, whatever it was. So it was very an interesting like conversation with a stranger that was just like, okay, this is what I'm doing right now because clearly I shouldn't be doing this, whatever I brought with me. Like I was reading, I think I was, and it's like, oh, okay, here we are.
He's like, ooh, lady with tattoos, I'm gonna go talk to her.
That's exactly what. Oh, she looks peaceful. Let me go over there and talk to her.
Right? He's like, she looks interesting.
He's like,
Hey,
yeah,
spider
right.
question mark?
Nudge, nudge.
Nudge, nudge.
I'm like,
Get a conversation from you. So, really quick, I want to talk about some ways that also I found that I feel like we need to talk about when it comes to finding your inner truths, our inner truths. Um,
mhm.
and the first one's trial and error. And I know it sounds dumb and scary. I know, but
It's a science experiment.
I love you. I fucking love you, lady. Personal experiences will always be the most significant learning tool you will ever have. Think about it like that, okay? We're scared of making the wrong decision because fear is what keeps us stuck. We have to remember fear keeps us stuck all the time. The
Yeah.
choices we make, whether they end up working out or not, are the very thing that bring us closer to our inner truths. It's our biggest tool we have is
Yep.
personal experience.
Yep. It's the best way to do it. Like you have to have these science experiments with the things. It's like, I'm going to put myself out there. And then
Yep.
like whatever happens, then you take it back, you write it down in your journal, you analyze data that you have collected, and then you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's it is scary, but like the data that you can collect from it for your own being and to actually solidify this truth into an actual truth
Yep.
is the best way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The next one I have is become less expectant and more curious because moments of true
Mhm.
clarity and understanding come when we're feeling calm and relaxed, not anxious and stressed out and having
Yeah.
these high expectations. We have to learn how to play with life. See it, and I have this too. See life as a science experiment. We won't know until we
Mhm.
try. And the great thing
Mhm.
about curiosity is it removes the self-imposed burdens of expectation.
It also removes what I have found because I am kind of scared and like I don't want to mess up and I want to be perfect and but I'm learning. So I always forget that I'm learning. I'm supposed to make, mess up, right?
Yes.
And I still get at this point I still get triggered when I get the rejection or a failure. But then when I start to really move past that triggerment,
I like it.
uh, when I move past that, I start to analyze the data and I realize, okay, so this is what it is. Like, I did this. This is not the outcome I wanted. What did I really want? Why
Yep.
didn't I get it? Like, so that's look at you can even look up, like, when we did science experiments in high school and the certain subjects that or questions that we had to ask and answer. Like, what is the science experiment? What am I hoping to get out of it? What is my test run? And do you do it like maybe do it 3 times to like, did I get the same data 3 times?
Well, yeah, and if we turn our expectations into curiosity, it helps keeping us from that fear of what if it doesn't go as expected. Well, if you're curious and you don't have the expectations and you tell yourself, I'm curious about this. I'm
Right,
curious to see
right.
what happens. Change your expectations into curiosity, and it's going to help you start learning your inner truth. So it'll bring you closer to it as you keep getting these curiosities answered.
Well, and it's just like that. Was it movie with the Robinsons, I think?
Meet the Robinsons.
Maybe it was a cartoon movie. I don't think it was Disney. I think it was Pixar.
I think you're right. I think you're
Where it
right.
had the guy that like they like celebrated the failures because they were a science like family.
Yes, 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 yes. It's the animated science fiction comedy film. I think it is Disney. It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's got Robin Williams. Yeah, Lewis is an aspiring 12-year-old inventor living in an orphanage, and his energy malfunctions, scaring off potential parents. And then yeah, he gets into a family that's like weird sciencey people.
Yeah, yeah. Like he's like, oh no, I failed. And they were like, oh my God, that's so great. We're so glad that you failed. Like, we don't teach that
Yeah.
enough, and especially in science. So, like, if you want a good like test run, watch that show just to see like how they're doing it. Because I think it has a really good blueprint for what we're talking about.
I agree. I think that's actually a really good. I'm putting that on my watch list. I haven't watched that in a long time. Okay, another one I have is learn to recognize which part of your inner voice is speaking to you. Now, we have talked about this a fuck ton, okay? A fuck ton. We're going to talk about it
Mhm.
again. Overthinking has a habit of clouding your thought process and leaving you totally unsure of what the hell you actually think. All right.
Mhm.
The more that we become acquainted with the different aspects of ourselves, the easier it is to connect with our inner truth. Essentially, knowing that we have different aspects to ourselves and which one is talking to us during certain
Mhm.
situations, it's easier to roll back to who you truly are. Because like you're no longer this hurt little kid crying in the corner, right? You know who you truly are at this point. You got to get connected to who you truly are, because there's all
Mhm.
these aspects that'll start clouding your judgment because they're trying to protect you or keep you safe or whatever the case may be.
Right, right. Well, and that's the thing. That's the ego's job, is to keep you safe, to keep you alive, right?
Yep.
So the problem is that the ego's bored because we don't have saber-toothed tigers hunting us down anymore.
Fuck.
That I think we don't.
That's going on a
Anyway.
t-shirt. Your ego's bored because we don't have saber-toothed tigers hunting you anymore.
So now, as soon as I back up out of my driveway, like, my ego chimes in and goes, "You're gonna get hit."
Yep.
And I'm like, why am I having these thoughts right now? I know that I'm a capable driver. I can see the cars coming. Like, why is it you're always showing me pictures of accidents? Like, stop
Yep.
it.
Stop it.
So, stop it. So, we got to remind that ourselves of like the ego when it starts showing us stuff that could happen, that it's just trying to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
But you are safe.
Right. That's goes into my next one of stop searching for your inner truth, because life is about the journey, not the destination. And the truth is all
Mhm.
of us are trying to fast forward and skip to the good parts. And we don't need to discover anything in order to be living our life with purpose, because life's happening around us regardless of what you want it to
Mhm.
be. And that doesn't
Mhm.
go without saying that it isn't a noble pursuit to actively seek for more meaning and more purpose and more understanding. But by trying to fast forward life to get to the good part of knowing ourselves and being healed and we're magical and we're this, we're that, we're missing all the things that life has to like teach us in the moment.
Well, and that's the difference between consuming and like actually living.
Yes,
Like, if you want
yes.
to be like a zombie that's just eating, just consuming, because think about this. We do it. We all do it. Like, if
Heck
we're
yeah.
going through TikTok and you're not learning anything, you're literally just doing this, right? You're doom scrolling, right? You're not even engaged in it. Right? Like, you don't even know what you just saw, the last 7 reels. You don't even know what you just saw. You just went through it.
I do it
Like,
all the time. Sometimes I
right.
just want funny videos. So I wait until one's funny and then
And then you
if it's
stop
not
on
funny
that.
enough in the few first seconds, goodbye.
Well, and that's different. You're searching, right? But
True.
like this like consuming, where like you ate something so fast that you don't even know how it tasted, or you don't even
Mm.
remember it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh yeah, I did do that this morning. Like, how many times do you go like, hey, what'd you do today? What'd you have for lunch? Now, you and I, we know what we had for lunch because we
Food is our friend.
food is our
We
friend.
love food.
Oh. So like it's a little different, but like I know that you've done that thing where you ate and then you're like, fuck, I don't know what I ate, but I know I ate something, I think. But you can't, or like you're driving home and you don't remember any
Remember
of
drive.
it.
Oh yeah, autopilot's what I call it.
Yeah.
Going to autopilot.
Um, we do these things that are just consuming. So like slow down, be in the moment, and like don't, it's not, it goes back to it's not a race. You don't get you don't, there's no prize if you get it done faster than somebody else. Like
Right.
that's not what it's about, right? Like you have
Nope.
to like slow it down. You have to like make mistakes, find out where you're going. And the other thing is be mindful that it's not in cement. Like your truth will change with your knowledge.
The only thing that's in cement in my mind and in my truth, for me personally, is I am not just my body. That
Right.
is the only thing that I can say that I put my
Right.
full force behind is I am not just my body. Not that I'm not a body, not that I'm
Right.
not just my body. That's the only thing that
Right.
I can put in cement. And that is probably the one thing I will always keep there in cement. And everything else is on a piece of paper.
Right. Everything else is I can erase it and I can rework it.
Yes. Yes.
Because that's the one thing. The more I learn, the more I read, the more we do these things. Even like if we followed this up and did another episode of this in a year, we would have completely different thoughts and understanding of it.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm sure like you guys have probably experienced that too if you've been with us for throughout the year. Like looking back at episodes like anger, and I'm like, hey, anger is my friend. I'd probably
Hmm.
start out with being anger is your friend, not your enemy.
I know. Oh God, just earthquake.
So to wrap up truth before we go into trust, I want to say that truth, inner truth is vulnerability. It's freedom, it's self-inquiry, it's not having shame, and inner truth is surrender. So to bring it down to simplicity, your inner truth is closer than you think. It sounds like very grand and mystical, but another word for inner truth could be self-knowledge. Okay. Learning to
Hmm.
understand ourselves better is what helps us to know what we need to fulfill us most.
Hmm.
Inner truth. Yay.
Yay. That was very nice. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
Shantae.
Shante, Shante. Okay, let's see here.
Sashay away.
I always do notes and then I don't even know how to read them when I'm done. So I was looking at Teal Swan was the first one that I came up with. And she had something where she said, trust is I can rely on you to wait a minute. What's this word? Capitalize on my best interest. So if you and I are in an agreement, we trust each other, and you are capitalizing on my best truth or best interest, and I am capitalizing on your best interest, that's how it's a win-win, right? It's not a win-lose. It's not like you're sacrificing something so I can win. That's not what we're doing because that doesn't create trust.
I
It's that
think
win-win.
that is such a beautiful explanation of trust.
I thought so too. I was like, damn. Because at
Because
first you're like, wait, what?
yeah,
But
because
once it sits in,
I guess if off the dome I had to describe trust, also keep in mind I didn't know research, it would be something similar to that, where it's like, I trust you to have your best interest at heart. I trust you to have my best interest at heart. I trust you because of best interest.
right.
There's
And
no
that's what,
malicious intent.
no, it's not, like I said, it's not like this, like, well, my truth is better than your truth, so that we're gonna, I know what's in your best interest.
Right.
And this is the one thing where we start to like stop trusting people is when we feel like they think they know best for us when it doesn't align, right? Like,
Right.
parents do this. As parents, we do this a lot at first because we do know what's best, right? Like, don't run across the road.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hurt the cat. Like these things that we like, no, don't do that, right?
Right.
Don't eat poison ivy.
Uh,
Like, these things that we
Don't.
try to keep you alive with, right?
Right.
But I think there's at some point when you start to actually make decisions for yourself that it's hard to like A, as a parent to let go, but B, like um the only way that you're going to learn how to trust yourself is if you start doing it, right? You can't rely on me to tell you what's
Trial and error, dude.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Um, and it was a big thing with Tren, like, and I don't, to have trust between us. My thing was to build her in the most authentic way, like have her build herself in the most authentic way, right? So I started out little so she could trust herself. So we started out with like clothes. I let her dress herself as long as it wasn't too warm or too cold, depending on the temperature that we were at that point in time, right? Like I don't want her wearing a bathing suit in the winter because that's not helpful.
Right.
So for the most part is because what this builds is a trust in yourself. So you're doing a science experiment basically when they're this little. So if she puts on leggings and a dress and a sweater and a cardigan and moon boots and socks, like if she's got too much clothes on and she gets hot during the day, she knows for next time, like, oh, this was my experience with this outfit. Now, for next time, I will learn from this and move forward, right?
Right. It's like I've seen all these TikToks of parents teaching their kids how to like pour from a big jug or like something like that into a cup and letting them do it. And they're scared and they're like, no, you can do it. And it's like about building up their self-confidence to trust themselves to do it. Because
Absolutely.
I've
And it's
seen that
like
so
high,
much.
it's perfect because that is building self-trust. That's only practicing. This is why it's so like, especially as adults, we get into this whole thing. It was like, I tried it once and I failed at it. I can't trust myself to do this. And it's like, no, you don't have the practice in it, right? Like you have to have this practice that builds the trust between yourself to be like this. Like I know if I go out in the world that I can pretty much handle anything, right? Like, but only because like I've been through a lot, right? Like I've been to the grocery store. I know how to trust myself in the grocery store, right? Like
You feel like self-trust after your research today, it helps build self-confidence. Like they kind of go hand in hand.
they do, and that's why if you don't trust yourself, you have low confidence.
Uh, Never thought
And
about that.
if you do trust yourself, you have, a stronger confidence. And look up, for a deeper dive, look up Teal Swan because she has a couple of them, trust, but also self-trust. And, it's very interesting because like um it's all trust and truth are all about building. So you're building a foundation. Like, I know this to be true at this moment. This is what I'm going to like lay down, right? So then you start building from that foundation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a house. Like, okay, so I've built this house, but this part no longer serves me. So we have to kind of dismantle it and build up a new truth. Because say like I was a Democrat, now I'm a Republican. So like now if this was my truth first and this is my truth now, then you build that up. You take this down, you build this back up. And vice versa. Like these are, because I use this because they're so wavering back and forth. Like I feel very much in the middle of these things, but I know that people have these four ultimate truths, like Democrat, Republican, right? Like it's a very easy concept for us to like grasp onto. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trying to like,
No.
right.
Yeah, but for the listeners, she's not trying to make it political. She's just using it because it's a
No,
good example. I agree. It's like the
right.
easiest of it's y'all understand that. Y'all understand that.
Y'all understand what I'm
Y'all
saying.
understand you picking up what I'm putting down?
So it's this thing where we are, and every once in a while we either read something, watch something, or meet somebody that changes our truth.
Uh-huh.
We either trust them enough because they've come into our life in some sort of way and they've hit the right marks. Well, then we have a conversation with them, and it's one of those conversations where you're like, wow, I never thought about it like that. And it changes everything, right? So that's how you can change your truth and then build off of that to build the trust in it, right? Like, even like if you're, say we're doing martial arts, right? Like, so you have to practice your patterns and then you have a test. So you're practicing the trust in yourself to do it. And then you're going in front of and doing a test to do it then, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like with all this work that we're doing, we're building the trust first. I'm sorry, the truth first, and then we practice it to build the trust.
Yes. Absolutely.
Um, and the other thing that this was like a trust between your universe and your outside universe and yourself. Like we see this in a spiritual community because this lack of trust in the spiritual community because you come to it because you have been let down in your life by people, right? So whether it was by you or by, people in your life, you have learned not to trust.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get hyper aware of like, well, I'm the only one I can trust. I'm the only one that can fill my cup. So you get these hyper independent people in the spiritual community. But the funny thing is what we really want, or what we're avoiding at that point, is relationships. So we have these crappy relationships in this community because we all think not only do we have all our wounds out, so they're being like, because we haven't worked on those, we're hyper independent. And then we go into, well, that just goes to show you that I can't trust anybody. And you don't, because if you worked on the wound, this is the one thing that really like made me crazy when I first got into spirituality, because I thought it was inherently, I thought it was like, oh, there's a wound, I fix it. There's a wound, I fix it. Like, why am I acting this way? Why is this hurt? Oh, okay, I'm going to fix it. And then you get to around the community, which is what you want to do. You want people, like we are inherently social creatures, um, but we're too sensitive and we've forgotten how to trust. We don't know how to trust, and we've been burned too many times, so we don't. Um, what killed me is that people would sit there and say that, like, oh, I've worked on that wound. And I'm like, if you worked on the wound, you wouldn't be triggered at the point right now. If you worked on the wound, you wouldn't be triggered by it, right? So, like, I kept coming up with this, like, these things and these people that, like, you say this, but if you worked on it, you, so basically we've gotten this community of people that don't trust and are hypersensitive. And now they're trying to make themselves more sensitive because we're working on our inner spiritual work and we're like opening our chakras and we're doing all the stuff, but we're not finding our grounding in it. We don't find we don't find our truth in it. And then
Right.
you have a bunch of people that are reactive instead of helping each other. It's not a true community, is really what it is.
Right. I feel like a lot of what we talked about goes into trust too, because like it is vulnerability, it is surrender,
Absolutely.
trusting somebody else has your best interest at heart. Because the thing is like I feel like the comment "heal yourself, heal the world" goes with trust so much, because
Absolutely.
being in a spiritual community, you have to understand that people are working on themselves, and you have to trust that they're doing it. And you have to trust that you being vulnerable and surrendering to them and like giving that to them, giving whatever it is, especially like good example is Nicole being an empath. It's You have to trust that the reason she's bringing up that wound is because she can see it. But it's hard to trust
Mm-hmm.
when you've had people touch that wound without knowing it, and it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
So I could
Yeah,
see
it's
how it's like this almost like catch-22, where it's like
yeah.
you have to it's like you have to surrender to it, and you have to trust that this person that you're talking to has your best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm. And that's hard because we've been let down all the time. So
Yeah.
for me, I've been trying, or I've been implicating, or I don't know what the word I want, but like I trust the universe. I'm trying to trust the universe, right? Like it, I, the thing is we deem things bad or good, right? If it hurts, it's bad. If it's good, if it feels good, it's good. That's how it is. But that's not how the spiritual journey goes, especially once we start diving deep, right? I'm going to look crazy because I'm working on myself and I've pulled everything out of my closet, so now my room is completely cluttered and I look like a hot mess because I am trying to organize my closet, right? And this is what it's going to look like. So yes, you're going to step on people, especially in the spiritual community. You're going to be triggered. Not only that, you are going to trigger other people because we all are on this self-aware journey. We're not perfect. This is a thing where we are consistently doing. Do we get better at it? Absolutely. But it takes time and it takes experiments and it takes like, oh, I got triggered, I got hurt. Why did I get hurt? Why did I get triggered? You need the trigger to show where you need to go next, and you have to trust these triggers. That's what we really need to lean into about trust, is trust the trigger, trust the pain. But we don't, we run away from it, and we deflect with like, well, you hurt me and now I can't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're doing it to a disadvantage of our own self.
Great example. You guys know about my car. My freaking
Mm-hmm.
car is in the dumpster. It's a dumpster fire.
It's a dumpster fire.
I trust that the universe, it happened for a reason. I might not see it fully yet. I might not see it for a while, but I trust the universe. It happened. It happened for a reason. There's no reason that it didn't happen. It's not just coincidental. It's not just a thing it does.
Right, right.
It's just I am trusting the universe to move me into what's going to be better. What's going to be
Well,
what's whatever's happening with this.
absolutely. And like, and kudos to you because like
Thank you.
if 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 we look back at how you would have reacted maybe 5 years ago, right? Right?
I would have been freaking
So,
the fuck out.
oh my God, just a mess, right? Like crying, upset, like depressed,
Yeah, like
right?
don't
Like I am a bad person, like just
yeah.
all of it, right? Dumpster
Which
fire.
don't get me wrong, you guys. I cried a little bit the one day because I was like, damn, I really love that car. Like I
Right.
do. I get a little attached to some things, and I love that little car. So I cried a little bit, and then I was like, all right, well, let's see what options we have. And it was like starting to just get the actionary steps that could be taken, starting to open
Mm-hmm.
up avenues and doors that whichever one works out best is what the universe wants, trying to
Mm-hmm.
trust. But thank you, because
Well,
I also had to cry at least once about it.
that's the thing though, is like we assume that we're, enlightenment means that we're not going to have feelings, and that's not true,
It's
right?
just not true.
It's just I've got better tools to deal with it. Yes, I'm going to cry. Yes, I'm going to feel upset. Yes,
Yeah.
I might experience a little bit of depression, but I also can move through it a lot quicker than just sitting in it, right? And
Hell
that's the
yeah.
that's the main difference right there. It's just the fact that I trust the universe because I've built this foundation and I know what I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
Now, when I come up, and this is the whole point of spirituality or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it, because like this is what we actually are doing it for. So now I'm implementing it in real life and I can move through these incidents quicker because I know it's got my back. I know if it cut off that tree limb, there was a reason, and I trust that. It
Yep.
wasn't in my best good. Maybe your car was going to maybe it was going to explode,
That's exactly what, okay,
right?
this is a great example of how I trust the universe. I don't know why it happened. It happened out of fucking nowhere. And it also happened on the week that my insurance went down, baby. And I was so pumped about it. I was so happy. But then you know what? My car took a shit. And I have to trust that. Maybe it could have blown up. Maybe that car was gonna get into an accident. Maybe I don't know, there's like 1 billion things that could be potential options, but I have to trust that if I trust the universe, I trust that this happened for a reason, essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what you're building. You're building that higher acknowledgement of the fact that yes, it hurt. Yes, it makes me feel a little bit like a failure. It
It
makes me
also makes me a
feel
little stressy messy, but that's
right.
okay.
And I've got to learn to trust other people to take care of me now,
Oh
which
yeah.
we are hyper independent women. And we
Oh
don't do that
yeah.
well. We
We
do
do
not do
not
that
do
well.
that
We do not
well.
do. You don't take care of me. No, no, no.
No, 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 no.
Um, so it's all these things together. So like, and this is what really like ritual going through the ritual magic class that I'm going through has really taught me because we went through Earth and it was hard and it was overwhelming. I remember feeling so overwhelmed about it, right? So then by the end of Earth, you're like, oh my God, I love it. I know this whole ritual by heart. Like, I'm doing so well. And then you go and we change it and we go into air. Well, now I have a new ritual to learn. I have new angels to learn. I have new words to learn. I have new things to do. Like, you're starting all over again, right? And then you build that up. And by the end of the 3 months, you're like, yes, air. I love air. Like, da da da. Well, now we're going water. So we have the same thing. It's a cycle. If you see the cycle, because we're doing a cycle, right? So I
Right.
see the cycle now. I know that I'm going to start off and I'm going to be like all thumbs.
Yes.
I don't know how to pronounce this word. I don't even know what this looks like. I am blah, 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 right? You're like, oh, it's new and I'm scared because I don't know anything. But I trust because I know myself that by the end of this, I will be successful,
Yep.
right?
Right.
And that's the trust that we're really trying to build up is not only is it doing it in my ritual magic class, and I'm doing it on purpose, which is teaching me how to implement it in the world.
Well, and I feel like trust comes from like even things we were talking about in inner truth, like the whole trial and error, right? You learn
Mm-hmm.
how to trust
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Trust comes from gaining self-knowledge, gaining
Yes.
self like awareness,
Yes.
gaining like going through, okay, trust, especially with everything that we've gone through this year, going through these big traumas and starting to work through them and experiencing the trigger again and it not triggering you like it used to. It's a new kind of trust you have in yourself.
Right.
Like,
Right. Because you're strong enough to handle it. And you
yeah,
know that,
yeah,
right? Like, and that's where the confidence comes in
yeah.
because you can trust yourself to do it. We just, you know, it's just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Apparently it's not coming out, but we've got this. I think if we really lean into the things that make us hurt instead of running away from them, I think that's where you really build trust in yourself,
Hmm.
which as soon as you build trust in yourself, you will project that out in the world.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
and I think
that's
that's where you gain trust in others too. Like, you guys have to understand, and I'm sure you will at this point when I say this, that you don't have to trust one person for everything. It's still forming. So let me try to get this out and then we'll reshape this. Okay. You don't have to trust one person for everything. And to say that you can't trust anybody is unrealistic and it's not an attainable thing because it's not true. When it comes to trusting others, there's a sense, there's an awareness that we need to have that is everybody is doing the best they can and somebody else might be going through something and they can't help you handle your shit too. And because of that, that doesn't mean you can't trust them.
Right.
Does that make sense? That was
Yeah.
just kind of, it was like a lot all at once. You know how sometimes it's just like it throws it all in there and I'm like,
Yeah. You're like,
oh, let me pull these 20 sentences together for you guys. But yeah, essentially what I just trying to say is like if Nicole's going through something really big right now, doesn't mean and I go through something, say, let's say, okay, my car broke down, right? But Nicole's going through something way bigger. It's not that I can't trust her to help me. It's that she
right.
has other shit going on. That doesn't mean she's not trustworthy anymore. Doesn't mean she's not going to show up for me.
Right. Right.
It means that her cup's full. We have to
Right.
remember that sometimes in every single form of relationships, doesn't matter if it's romantic or not everybody can be at 100% all the time to show up for you. That doesn't mean
Right.
that you can't trust anybody. It just means we have to have a better awareness of others as well as ourselves.
Well, and that's, I think, discernment on like what I need to take care of myself and when I need to ask for help, right? Like, okay, like,
Absolutely.
and just ask, you know, and if I say no because I have, for whatever reason, right?
Yes.
Then that's okay. That's my truth. And I'm sticking to my thing and you respect that. And then you go to, because somebody else needs to fill that for you, right?
I was just going to say that too. I think that when it comes to trusting other people, we also have to like have amount of respect for each other as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things I learned a long time ago that has helped me in a lot of relationships, and especially even just myself inside, so that I'm not like a push my shit on the other people type of person, is can you handle me talking to you about this right now? Or like, are you
Right.
able to listen? I just need you to listen. Or like, I need your help with this. Are you able to hear this and like give me your thoughts?
Right. Right.
It's a respectful thing to do. And then you can trust them to give, if you trust that person at all, it'll build trust even more because then you can either be absolutely vulnerable with them, give them everything, and trust that they're going to have your best interest at heart. Or they're
Mm-hmm.
going to say, I'm not able to handle that right now. And that's also going to make you trust them because you know they're not going to yell at you
Right.
or try to put you're triggering something for them that they're experiencing right now and they just shove it back at you and they mirror it right back to you, you know?
Right. Like, oh, well, that's, it's interesting because that is, a lot of times, especially when I touch something that is sore, I have to trust that I'm supposed to touch it. And it's just like a wound, right? Like I have to clean it up to heal it. So, and even if that's like picking the scab so we can get it to flow out so we can start to heal, right? It's going to hurt.
Mhm.
So, what I've tried to learn is not to take things personally when I say it. I say things because they need to be said, but I don't know the reason. And yes, I might get attacked from it because it's a defense mechanism.
Mhm.
So these defense mechanisms are just because I touched something that hurt, right?
Yeah.
So trusting the universe that like, okay, don't take this personally. And sometimes I do because like I'm human, but like
Yeah, you have feelings.
I
Weird.
have feelings, right? Like it's not like all like that all the time, but like knowing when like I need to say this, or even, it's not even like that. It just comes out and then I'm like, oh fuck. But like later on the day, somebody will come back and be like, you know, when you said this, I or actually it's more like when somebody comes back like, you know what you said to me a couple years ago, and I was like, no, what? And they'll say it and I have no recollection of saying this, none whatsoever.
That happens to me too.
Right. And it's so weird because you're like, so then when that comes back at me, I'm like, okay, so I'm not gonna have to. So now I realize that I can trust what comes out, even if it feels wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a higher purpose for it that's beyond me. Right.
Yeah.
Like there was a reason why I had to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens to me a lot with gifts. I know, side note here, but like I'm a gift giver. That's how I
Yeah.
show love. And like even you said I got you something, some cup or something a long time ago, and I'm like, no fucking idea what you're talking about, but yay. I'm glad you still like it. Because that
You're like,
happens to me with
perfect.
gifts. It happens to me
Oh
with
no.
words, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I said or
Yeah.
got you. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because that was when we were talking about Kevin and me driving you back from Sidetrack that one time.
Yeah.
And to drive back, you gave us coffee in a cup, and I always remember the cup because it was particular, right? It was an incident or a thing that we shared, right? But
Uh-huh.
like to you, it was just a cup,
Yep.
right? Like it wasn't like this.
Y'all want some coffee? Thanks
Right,
for
right, right,
getting me home.
right. Thank you, thank you. So I would suggest look up some stuff if you really want to go through this, especially if you're lacking in self-confidence, which I am. So this was a really good thing for me to look at about uh how these two go hand in hand. So
Hmm.
learning to trust yourself and self-confidence, like the more you trust yourself, the more confidence you have about who
Yeah.
you are. So do some research on that. Maybe buy a couple books, whatever feels right. And remember to give people grace, give yourself grace and compassion in this world right now. And um, don't take things personally.
Back to the four agreements we go, baby.
Oh my God. Yes, that's true.
For me, a lot of things go right back to that.
Oh,
The amount of
and
times I say that now to other people, I think Jordan's getting sick and tired of fucking hearing, well,
don't
you're
take that personally.
assuming. Well, I think you're taking that personally, and it's probably not about you. And he's like,
All
I'm like,
right.
I know, you
I
conditioned
know.
me.
I know.
I did it too. I did it too. Like,
Well,
I don't
even
like
like
hearing that either.
no, but you and I talk all the time and we're like, well, and we'll sit here and we'll talk as we're talking. We're like, well, this is how I felt and this is what they did, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd be like, oh, but I'm taking it personally and I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how much the those two specifically come up. And then the other day I was talking to one of my friends who is going through something at a salon and she's worried people don't like her. And I was like, well, do you feel like you're doing your best? And she was like, yeah, I feel like I'm giving everything I have. And like, I just want it to be a great place. I said, well, then you're doing it. I was like, don't assume
Yeah,
that people are talking about you and you're doing your best. If you feel like you're
right,
doing your best, you're doing the best thing you can do.
right. But that's why we do our best, right?
Yeah, yes.
Is so that inner judge doesn't have any stronghold on it. Like you have to you do your best so the judge doesn't have anything to judge.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. Four agreements,
Yeah,
baby.
that's right. That's right.
It always comes back.
Yeah, that's true.
They're just creeping in the corner. I
They're
know
like,
that about.
hey, hey, that one's me.
Yeah, you're doing
That's
that.
me.
You're in my realm.
Right. You're like, oh, you're assuming. Hi.
So let's see here. Our next episode, because we're coming up on the end of the year here, our next episode is rejection. So we're gonna talk about
Rich.
rejection. What is
Rejection.
that? The shame, the shame. Is that Lion King, maybe? Rejection. Oh, there's a Disney song that says that.
I don't know that one. I don't think it's Lion King, unless it's the second one.
It is Lion King.
It
It is.
is.
Uh, I'm sorry. It's not rejection, it's deception. Disgrace. Evil is playing on the scar on his face. It's from the Lion King. It's One of Us lyrics.
One of us. Oh,
Deception,
oh,
disgrace. Evil is
oh,
playing as the
oh.
scar on his face.
Right. It's the hyenas when they're singing,
Yes,
right?
it's
Yes.
the second
Yes.
part, or this Lion King 2, One of Us.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I was like, I don't remember that in The Lion King.
It says, Kovu's finally rejected Sarah's plan for him to kill Simba and retake the throne in the name of Scar. Run back to the pride where he feels like he truly belongs, but Simba's mad at him. He has to leave, so they're all singing rejection, disgrace, or deception and disgrace. I keep thinking it's rejection.
Rejection.
Rejection. Okay, well, we're
Anyways,
talking rejection, not the other word I can't think of now, of course. But we will be talking that next week. And yeah, we'll see you guys later.
happy Turkey Day.
Okay, bye bye.
Okay, bye-bye.